Hi, I'm Scott Stevens with Simple Photo School. Today we're going to be talking about Aperture, what it is and how using it can help you start taking great photos today. Understanding and utilizing control of your aperture is a great way that you can start getting creative results with your images and start taking images that you love. First, it would probably help to understand what an aperture actually is. And stay tuned till the end of the video because I have a quick tip on how you can start using the aperture to take great photos today. An aperture is essentially just an opening in your lens that allows light to come in through the lens and go into the camera. That's it, basically. There's a little bit more to it than that, but I'll help you break it down into simple steps so that it's easy to understand. The aperture is made up of a diaphragm that opens and closes to adjust the opening in your lens, or the aperture in your lens. The main thing that you need to understand is that the aperture affects the depth of your image. The larger the opening of the aperture, the more shallow the depth in the image is. And the smaller the opening of the aperture, the greater the depth is. Okay, so here's the only tricky part with the whole thing. The way that it's measured. It's measured in f-stops, and that's not the confusing part. The confusing part is that the smaller the number, the larger the opening, which sounds kind of counterintuitive. So if you had, for example, an f2.8, that's a really large opening for your lens, which gives you a shallow depth of field. So small number equals bigger opening and smaller depth. It's kind of confusing. Now, another thing that the aperture affects is the amount of light that comes into your camera, which makes sense if you think about it. The smaller the hole, the less light is actually going to come in. So whenever you adjust the aperture, you need to compensate with the shutter speed or with the ISO to counter it. And we'll get into balancing exposure and balancing the different aspects like shutter speed, ISO, and aperture in another video. But you can't just have whatever you want. Everything is give and take with photography. So an important thing to understand is that as you use the aperture and you close it down, it lets in less light, so you need to get more light from somewhere else. Or if you open it up, you add way more light to your photo and you have to take light away somewhere else. So the larger the f-stop number, the smaller the diameter of the aperture. That's easy to understand, right? All right, so now it's time for your quick tip. If you're ever shooting pictures of people, and a lot of times this is one of the major differences that you see between a professional photographer and an amateur or a beginning photographer, is that their subjects are often popping off of their background. Like their background is out of focus and the subject just seems to be totally isolated from that. Aperture is the main way that you can accomplish that. The way that you can do that is by using a large aperture or a small f-stop number. Shooting at f2, f2.8, or maybe even as wide open as f1.4 is a great place to start. And that'll help you blur out the background behind your subject, and it'll really help your subject to stand off of the background. So it's a great way to isolate your subject if there's a lot of busyness going on in the background, or if you just really want your subject to pop. That's a great way to do it, and that's something you can do right now. All right, so make sure that you subscribe below to Simple Photo School, our YouTube channel, so that you can always get the newest, most updated videos discussing photography tips and techniques to help you start taking great photos today. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit like below and feel free to leave a comment. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. Smaller aperture. It's amazing. You never realize how many ticks you have until you record yourself on video.